Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all. There was a time in my mid-20s when I was absolutely determined to lose weight. For 90 days, and it was 90 days exactly, I can remember it very vividly, I was preparing for an important exam and I ran 5 kilometers every single day. And my diet was just as strict. 1 salad with tuna or chicken and 1 protein smoothie a day. That was it. During this time, I was disciplined, I was consistent, and at the end of those 90 days, my weight did not change at all. I hadn't lost a single kilogram. I remember feeling so frustrated and confused. I thought, I'm doing everything right. Why is this not working? If you have ever been in a similar situation, I want you to know something. It wasn't a lack of willpower. What I experienced and what many people go through is a natural biological response called metabolic adaptation. Today, I want to explain why the strategy of over-exercising and extreme calorie restriction often fails to deliver weight loss, both in the short term and the long run. But I also want to show you how you can lose weight and maintain it so you can live a healthier life, inshallah. So what was happening inside my body during those 90 days? When you create a huge caloric deficit through very little food and a lot of exercise, your body doesn't know your goal is weight loss. Instead, it senses a famine. And to protect you, your body activates survival mechanisms. The first thing that happens is your metabolism decreases. Your resting metabolic rate slows down. This is the number of calories you burn just to keep your heart beating, your lungs breathing, and your brain functioning. You could say it's the calories you burn if you would just lay in bed and do nothing all day. There is a lot of good evidence that explains that this process, also called adaptive thermogenesis, is a major reason why weight loss slows down and plateaus. Your body just becomes more efficient, using fewer calories to do the same basic jobs it did before. The second thing that happens is a hormonal shift. Your hormones rearrange to defend your body weight. Your hunger hormone, ghrelin, increases, making you constantly think about food. At the same time, your satiety hormones like leptin, which tell your brain you're full, decrease. This is not a subtle change. Research has shown that these hormonal shifts can persist long after the diet is even over, creating a strong biological pressure to regain the lost weight. And the third factor is energy compensation. When you exercise a lot in a starved state, your body compensates. You might subconsciously become less energetic, you might take the elevator instead of the stairs, or you might feel more tired and inactive later in the day. Furthermore, your body may actually burn fewer calories during the same workout over time, since the body is very good at finding ways to conserve energy when it feels threatened. And finally, in a severe deficit, you don't just lose fat, you also lose precious muscle mass. Since muscle is metabolically active tissue, meaning it burns calories just to exist, losing it further contributes to a slower metabolism. All of this creates a vicious cycle. My body wasn't working against me, although it felt like it was. It was fighting for my survival. It was slowing my metabolism, flooding my system with hunger hormones, and conserving energy. This all-or-nothing approach of extreme dieting and over-exercising that is often advertised on social media might look desirable at first. However, often these influencers suffer from eating disorders themselves and are promoting a very unhealthy body image. But there is another way. We just have to learn how we can work with our biology and not against it. For me, the most important part is how we feel around food. The goal is to stop seeing food as the enemy and start seeing it as a source of energy and of your long-term vitality. Mindful eating is about engaging all your senses and being present during your meals. It's about rebuilding your relationship with food so that eating becomes less restrictive and judgmental and ultimately leads to more satisfaction and less guilt. It's a practice that helps you get back in tune with your body's natural hunger cues, which is something that extreme dieting completely disrupts. And it can be as simple as this. Take a few deep breaths before you eat. Sit upright and reflect on your intention, your niyyah, remembering that you're fueling your body so it can function at its best. A great way to build this mindful connection even before you take your first bite is by cooking from scratch. The very process of preparing a meal, choosing the ingredients, feeling their textures, forces you to slow down and invest yourself in the act of nourishment. For me, eating a slice of my own homemade sourdough bread is a profound experience because I've worked for hours and days to nurture the starter and perfect the dough. Knowing the effort that went into its preparation makes me appreciate each bite so much more, and I'm far less likely to eat it mindlessly. If you can, visit a local farmer's market with your children and show them where their food comes from. My sons, for example, both love having eggs for breakfast. But since we only have 3 chickens, we only get 2 or 3 eggs per day. This means we have to decide together each morning how we will use them. I love that this makes us appreciate every single egg, and it's always exciting to see whether the hens have laid 2 eggs or 3. This mindset naturally extends to the meal itself. Try eating without distractions like your phone or the TV. In our family, for example, we don't allow audiobooks in the background anymore, even though my son constantly asks me for it, as we aim for the most peaceful environment possible at dinner. Make an effort to chew slowly and actually taste your food, and try stopping before you feel completely full. There is a beautiful Islamic principle of leaving a third of your stomach for air, no matter what remains on your plate. It's also important to build awareness around emotional eating. Often we reach for food not out of physical hunger, but to soothe feelings like sadness, exhaustion, or anger. This is another area where mindfulness can help. By simply pausing to check in with your emotional state before you eat, you can learn to tell the difference between true hunger and coping mechanisms. Making this distinction is a key step in protecting yourself from patterns that can lead to an unhealthy relationship with food in the long run. I believe calorie counting can be useful for some people, but only as a temporary tool for building awareness. In the beginning, tracking what you eat for a few weeks can be incredibly eye-opening. It can help you understand the energy content of foods, get a sense of proper portion sizes, and identify where those hidden calories might be coming from. You could use free tracking apps like Lose It to calculate your basal metabolic rate and approximately your activity energy expenditure, and then see how many calories you typically consume in a day. However, the long-term goal is to graduate from tracking. The problem with constant monitoring is that it can become obsessive and disconnect you from your body's natural hunger and fullness signals. The true objective is to develop a more intuitive sense of eating. Once you have that awareness, you can put the app away and trust yourself to make the right choices most of the time. And as my story of extreme restriction shows, how much we eat is a critical factor. To lose weight, you do need a caloric deficit, but the size of that deficit is crucial. An extreme deficit, like the one I put myself through, is a direct trigger for a metabolic adaptation, because it signals a famine to your body. The key is a moderate deficit. Research and clinical practice consistently show that a deficit of 300 to 500 calories per day from your maintenance level is the sweet spot. This is enough to promote steady, sustainable fat loss while being small enough to minimize metabolic slowdown, preserve precious muscle mass, provide enough energy for your daily activities, and keep your hunger manageable. This approach prevents the exhaustion and burnout I experienced and creates a plan you can stick to without feeling deprived. So if you choose to count calories, set a time limit, perhaps 2 to 4 weeks, and aim for that moderate deficit of 300 to 500 calories. Use it strictly as a learning phase. Then let it go and focus on the quality of your food and listening to the wisdom of your own body. I want to address 2 categories of foods that are often marketed as helpful for weight loss, but can actually do the opposite: diet or light products and highly processed foods in general. Let's start with the so-called diet products. It seems logical, right? Swap full sugar soda for a 0-calorie one, or a normal yogurt for a light version. You're cutting calories, so it should help, right? But your body is far more complex than a simple calculator. The problem with artificial sweeteners is when you taste something sweet, your brain and your gut expect a calorie load of sugar to follow. But with artificial sweeteners, that energy never arrives. Over time, this disconnect can dull the natural relationship between sweet taste and calorie intake. Some studies even suggest this may disrupt the hormonal balance that regulates our hunger and satiety. Research indicates that consuming artificial sweeteners can still trigger an insulin response, thereby telling your body to store fat, even in the absence of actual sugar. Furthermore, there is a psychological effect. When you have a diet drink, you might feel like you have saved yourself calories, which can unconsciously give you permission to eat more later. Now, let's broaden this to processed foods in general. I'm talking about packaged snacks, sugary breakfast cereals, frozen meals, and most fast food. What makes them so problematic? Have you ever heard of the NOVA classification? I would advise to print it out and hang it in your kitchen as visible as possible. This classification system groups foods by their level of processing. The most problematic are ultra-processed foods. These are made to be very attractive with the longest shelf life and are able to be consumed anywhere at any time. They are designed for overconsumption. They hit our taste buds' reward center so perfectly that it becomes very, very difficult to stop after a sensible portion. They are often soft and easy to eat quickly, which bypasses the body's natural signals that tell us we are full. And finally, these ups and downs of blood sugar and insulin can worsen hunger and promote fat storage. So you have to realize it's not just about counting calories, it's about the quality of those calories. By choosing a whole apple over an apple-flavored cereal bar, or cooking a chicken and vegetable stir-fry instead of reaching for a frozen dinner, you're giving your body real, recognizable nourishment. You're supporting stable energy, respecting your natural hunger cues, and working with your biology. So when it comes to the question of what to eat, the foundation of your diet should be whole, minimally processed foods like vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, eggs, and quality meats and fish. Now, an often overlooked but incredibly important aspect of this is to seek out a diversity of flavors and textures. Don't let your meals become monotonous. Actively include spicy, umami-rich, sour and even bitter foods, because this sensory variety does two key things. First, it makes your meals more satisfying and enjoyable, which enhances feelings of satiety and can prevent you from seeking out more food out of mere boredom. Second, it exposes your body to a wider range of beneficial plant compounds and antioxidants. Furthermore, pay attention to the texture. Make a conscious effort to include foods that require real chewing. Instead of always eating vegetables cooked to the point of being soft, try them raw or lightly steamed. Add some roasted nuts to your rice dish or some raw carrots or apples to your salads. This act of chewing is not just about breaking down food, it provides crucial exercise for your jaw and facial muscles, stimulates saliva production, which is the first step of good digestion, and contributes to your dental health. But within the whole foods framework, protein deserves special attention. Adequate protein is crucial because it significantly boosts satiety, helping you feel full and satisfied for longer. It also supports muscle retention, which is especially important during weight loss to protect your metabolic rate, and ultimately it's essential for improving your body composition and long-term metabolic health. When it comes to the quantity of your protein intake, the official recommended dietary allowance, RDA, is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight to prevent deficiency. But many experts suggest that for optimal results, especially for supporting muscle and metabolism, a range of 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram is more effective. For a 70 kilogram person, that's about 84 to 112 grams of protein per day. The good news is that you don't necessarily need protein bars or shakes to hit this target. You can get plenty of protein from whole foods like lentils, chickpeas, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, eggs, chicken, and fish. A simple and effective goal is to include a source of protein in every meal. For breakfast, that could be eggs or Greek yogurt. For lunch and dinner, add tempeh, tofu, chicken, fish, or lentils to your plate. After I finished med school, I actually started my residency in a bariatric department. And I have to say, I loved working there so much. Seeing the positive impact bariatric surgery and drugs like Saxenda or Ozempic, seeing the impact it had on obese patients, how it could help with the treatment of diabetes, all of this was a really impactful experience for me. I've seen firsthand the profound effects of these medical interventions. I've seen patients who were once immobilized by their weight regain their lives, their health and their mobility. But I've also seen the other side, the lifelong rules and the potential for complications. And because of this experience, my personal perspective is very clear. Bariatric surgery and medications like Ozempic are medical tools for treating disease, not lifestyle accessories for everyone. Bariatric surgery, for example, is not a simple procedure. It's a major gastrointestinal operation that permanently alters your anatomy. It's reserved, or should be reserved, for individuals with severe obesity, with serious comorbidities like type 2 diabetes or sleep apnea. For them, the risk of the surgery can be lower than the risk of living with their disease. But it comes with a lifelong commitment. Patients must adhere to strict nutritional rules to prevent deficiencies, and they can experience complications like dumping syndrome, marginal ulcers, or internal hernias. That's why it is not and should never be sold as an easy way out. It's the same with medications like Ozempic. They were developed and approved to treat type 2 diabetes. As GLP-1 receptor agonists, they are mimicking a hormone that slows stomach emptying, reduces appetite, and helps regulate blood sugar. And they're not without side effects, which can include significant gastrointestinal issues. And we still lack long-term data on their use for weight management in otherwise healthy individuals. My concern is the growing trend of marketing these interventions as lifestyle medicine. When people without severe obesity use them for quick weight loss, they are using a drug to solve a problem that could be addressed with sustainable lifestyle changes. And what happens when they stop the medication? The weight almost always returns because the underlying habits haven't changed. These tools do not teach you about mindful eating, portion control, or the joy of cooking whole foods. They are a biological override. So the bottom line is this. These are life-saving interventions for the ill. They are not designed for the person who just wants to lose those last 10 pounds. Using them without a clear medical necessity overlooks their risks, their intended purpose, and most importantly, the value of building a healthy, sustainable relationship with food. Now let's talk about movement. This topic alone is so vast and important that it deserves its own dedicated video, which I plan to make inshallah. For today, let's focus on the foundational principle. When we think of exercise for weight loss, we often picture grueling, long-hour gym sessions. But what I want to emphasize is the importance of simply leading an active lifestyle. You have probably heard the advice to get 10,000 steps a day. It's a nice round number that's been widely repeated, but it's not a special threshold backed by any science. The core principle behind it, however, is absolutely correct. Moving frequently throughout the day is crucial. But the goal isn't to hit a specific step count. The goal is to find a way of moving that you genuinely enjoy and can stick with. This could be playing with your children, or going on a daily walk while listening to an audiobook, or gardening and housework. Consistency in these small daily movements will impact your metabolism, your mood, and your overall health. And that is far more important than sporadic, intense workouts that you dread. It's also crucial to be flexible and adapt to your life's changing seasons. I, for example, have done track and field since I was a little child, at least 5 times a week. So for me, running always felt very natural. But during pregnancy and the postpartum period, running was no longer the most convenient or safe form of movement. So I had to adapt. I started walking uphill on a treadmill instead. This was a good compromise because it didn't put too much pressure on my pelvic floor, and I could even put my son in the baby carrier while doing it. Even though I much prefer running outdoors, this adapted routine was what supported me physically and mentally through this demanding and sometimes draining time of early motherhood. So the best movement is the one that fits your life, sustains your well-being, and the one that you can stick to. And for those of you who want to take it a step further, the most beneficial forms of structured exercise are weight training and zone 2 cardio training. But as I said, that is a detailed topic that truly deserves its own deep dive in a future video, inshallah. For now, let the most important takeaway be this. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I really like this saying because you don't need a complex fitness regime to start seeing benefits. The best program is the one you actually do. Just find a way to move your body that feels good and do it consistently. Pair that movement with the nourishing whole foods we've discussed earlier, and you will build yourself a sustainable, strong foundation for lifelong health and vitality. And lastly, I will remind you and myself again and again that our bodies are an amana, a sacred trust, and it is our responsibility to be their gentle and devoted caretakers. Every healthy meal, every mindful walk, every moment of rest is an act of gratitude and respect for this incredible gift. May Allah grant us with all the wisdom to take care of our bodies. That's it for today. Assalamu alaikum.